You think every town in Canada is connected to Canada. There's a highway somewhere nearby. Amazon delivers, eventually. A hospital sits within an hour's drive. That's what living in a country means. For tens of thousands of Canadians, that's only true for a few weeks a year. Then, the road melts. There's a town in Manitoba that lost its only railway and spent 18 months cut off from the rest of the country. There are villages in Quebec linked to the national road network by nothing but a marked snowmobile trail running 400 kilometers through the bush. And there's a settlement in the high Arctic that exists because the federal government moved families there in 1953 and told them they couldn't go home. These are 9 real Canadian towns that get cut off from the world every winter. How they got there, what winter actually does to them, and why people refuse to leave. Real, documented, and almost impossible to believe. And number 1 isn't just cut off by winter, it was created by something much colder. Let's dive in. Number 9. Moosonee, Ontario. At the bottom of James Bay, right where the Moose River empties into saltwater, sits a small northern town. It looks like the end of a long northern highway. It isn't. No highway has ever reached Moosonee. Not in 1930, not today. The only way in on land is a train called the Polar Bear Express, which leaves Cochrane, Ontario, and rolls north for about 300 kilometers through Spruce Bog and Muskeg. 5 hours, 1 track, no alternative. Step off the platform in Moosonee, and you have gone as far as the rails go, and the rails are the road. And Moosonee is only half the story. Across the river sits Moose Factory, an island community and the oldest English-speaking settlement in Ontario, founded as a Hudson's Bay Company post in 1673. In summer, you cross the Moose River by water taxi. In winter, you drive across it on an ice road plowed straight over the frozen river. But twice a year, during freeze-up and breakup, the river is neither water nor ice, just slush and moving flows that nothing can float on or drive across. For those weeks, the trip between 2 communities you can see from each other's shorelines happens by helicopter, a flight that lasts about 2 minutes, over a river you could once walk across. This is the homeland of the Moose Cree, who were trading, hunting, and raising families on this coast for generations before the company ever built its post. Ask people why they stay, and the answers rhyme. The land is theirs. The river is a food source, a highway, and a calendar. The isolation is simply the price of living somewhere that still belongs to itself. Moosonee at least has a train, and a train runs on a schedule. The next town depends on something far less reliable: cold weather arriving on time. Number 8. Fort Chipewyan, Alberta. Fort Chipewyan is the oldest continuously occupied settlement in Alberta, established as a fur trading post in 1788, on the western tip of Lake Attawapiskat. It was a metropolis of the fur trade before Calgary existed. Today, about 1,000 people live there, most of them Mikisew Cree, Athabasca, Chipewyan Dene, and Métis. Locals just call it Fort Chip, but for all that history, there is no permanent road to Fort Chip. In summer, you fly in, or you come by barge up the water. And in winter, crews wait for the muskeg to freeze solid, then carve a winter road some 280 kilometers north from Fort McMurray. It typically opens around mid-December and dies around mid-March, when the ice starts rotting from underneath. On the frozen lake crossings, heavy trucks slow to a crawl, because moving too fast pushes a pressure wave through the water beneath the ice that can crack the road ahead of you. That window is the community's entire shipping season on wheels. 3 months, give or take, to haul in a year's worth of fuel, lumber, vehicles, appliances, and anything too heavy or too bulky to fly. Families drive south to fill trucks with groceries because food that has to travel by air costs dramatically more. When the road closes, the airplane becomes the grocery store, the ambulance, and the mail truck all at once. Why put up with it? Because for the people who live there, Fort Chip is the center of the world, not the edge of it. The community has spent recent decades fighting publicly for the health of the water and land downstream of the oil sands. You don't fight that hard for a place you're willing to abandon. Every winter, Fort Chip watches the thermometer like other towns watch traffic reports. Cold is connection. Warmth is isolation. And in the far north of Ontario, there's a community that knows that math even better. Number 7. Attawapiskat, Ontario. Attawapiskat sits on the west coast of James Bay, home to around 2,000 members of the Attawapiskat First Nation, part of the muskeg Cree. The pavement of Ontario's highway network gives up hundreds of kilometers south of here. For most of the year, an airstrip is the only connection. What connects it in winter is the James Bay Winter Road, a route of packed snow and ice threading down the coast through Chipewyan and Fort Albany toward Moosonee, 300 kilometers of temporary highway that exists only while the deep cold holds. While it's open, usually a matter of weeks from January into March, the trucks run day and night. Fuel tankers, flatbeds of building materials, pickups loaded with a year of dry goods. When it closes, the price of everything grows wings. In fly-in communities on this coast, a 4-liter jug of milk has been documented in recent years at prices north of $10, even with federal subsidies softening the blow. A serious medical emergency means a medevac flight, and those flights are priced in the tens of thousands of dollars. And for 11 years, there was a twist that almost reads like fiction. From 2008 to 2019, De Beers operated the Victor Diamond Mine about 90 kilometers west of town. Diamonds were pulled out of the muskeg and flown south over a community waiting for a road made of ice. The people of Attawapiskat have faced hard winters and harder headlines, but the goose hunt, the river, and the family networks running up and down this coast are not things you can pack into a moving truck. The Cree were here when the bay had no name on any European map. They intend to be here after. North of Attawapiskat, the map keeps going. The roads, even the frozen ones, mostly don't. Quick pause. We're a third of the way down the list, and the towns only get more remote from here. If this has surprised you so far, hit subscribe so the next one finds you. And if you've ever lived somewhere the road ends, or waited for an ice road to freeze, drop your story in the comments. I read every one. Alright, back to the countdown. Number 6. Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories. Tuktoyaktuk, an Inuit hamlet of about 900 people on the shore of the Arctic Ocean. For most of its modern history, Tuk was the poster child of Canadian winter isolation, and strangely, winter was when it was least isolated. Every year, crews groomed a road of pure ice across the frozen Mackenzie Delta and out over the ocean itself, connecting Tuk to Inuvik. If you ever watch trucks crawl across black ice on shows like Ice Road Truckers, you've seen it. For a few months each year, 18-wheelers drove on the Arctic Ocean. Then spring came, the road melted into the sea, and Tuk was reachable only by air again. That was the rhythm for decades. Freeze, connect, melt, disappear. Then, on November 15th, 2017, the Inuvik to Tuktoyaktuk Highway opened. 138 kilometers of gravel over permafrost at a cost of some $300 million. For the first time in history, Canada had a permanent, all-season public road to its Arctic coast. Elders who had spent their whole lives watching the ice road vanish every spring drove to the ocean in July. Tourists now drive to the Arctic and dip their toes in the ocean. Freight costs eased, and a trip to Inuvik stopped depending on the season. But it didn't make Tuk a suburb. Prices stay high, storms still close the road, and the ocean is eating the shoreline as the permafrost thaws. Tuk is the exception on this list, the town that finally got its road. Nobody else from here on gets one, and at least one town further up this countdown had a connection to Canada, lost it, and fought for a year and a half to get it back. Number 5. The Lower North Shore, Quebec. This one is bigger than a single town. It covers an entire coastline that Canada's road network simply never reached. Quebec's Route 138 runs east along the St. Lawrence for over 1,000 kilometers, until, at a village called Kagaska, it just stops. A famous sign stands at the end of the pavement. Beyond it, stretching close to 400 kilometers toward the Labrador border, lies the Lower North Shore, a string of small villages with names like La Romaine, Harrington Harbor, Tête à la Baleine, and La Tabatière. Thousands of people, English-speaking fishing families, French-speaking Quebecers, and Innu communities, living along a coast with no through road at all. In summer, a supply ship works up the coast village by village, and planes hop between gravel airstrips when the fog allows. On this coast, the fog often does not allow. But winter is when the Lower North Shore does something found almost nowhere else in North America. When the snow sets in, crews groom and mark the route Blanche, the White Road, a signed snowmobile trail hundreds of kilometers long that becomes the region's official land link. Not a shortcut for sport, the actual winter highway. People commute between villages on it, haul supplies on sleds, and cross frozen bays following wooden stakes hammered into the ice. Children in these villages grow up understanding that the family snowmobile is the car. Why do people stay on a coast the highway forgot? Because cod, crab, and seal built these villages, because families go back 2 centuries in the same coves, and because there's a stubborn pride in being from a place most of your own province couldn't find on a map. Quebec has promised for decades to finish Route 138. The villages keep their snowmobiles tuned. On this coast, the sea freezing is an opportunity. In northern Labrador, it's a countdown. Number 4. Nain, Labrador. Nain is the northernmost permanent community in Labrador, home to about 1,200 people, most of them Labrador Inuit. It's also a capital, the administrative center of Nunavut, the self-governing Inuit region created by a landmark land claims agreement in 2005. Moravian missionaries founded a mission here in 1771, which makes Nain older than the United States, and to this day, you cannot drive to it from anywhere. For part of the year, the connection is a ferry working up the coast from Happy Valley Goose Bay with food, freight, and passengers. But this is the Labrador Sea, and every autumn, usually around November, the ice forms and the ferry season ends. From then until the ice leaves in late spring, Nain's only link is a small plane, and small planes in northern Labrador spend a lot of days on the ground while the weather decides. You stock the freezer in October for a stretch that lasts 7 months. And the cruelest stretches are freeze up and break up, when the sea ice is too weak for snowmobiles, but too thick for boats. For those weeks, if the planes can't fly, nothing moves. Not groceries, not mail, sometimes not patience. And yet Nain grows. Inuit families have harvested this coast for thousands of years, and the ice that cuts the town off is the same ice that opens the hunting grounds, carrying travelers to caribou, seals, and cabins held in families for generations. Ask around in Nain, and you'll hear the same idea in different words. The ice isn't the enemy of life here. It is the road, the freezer, and the history, all in one. Nain lives by the sea's schedule. Farther west, deep in the Yukon, there's a village that has never seen a road, a rail line, or a ferry in its entire existence. Number 3. Old Crow, Yukon. Old Crow is the Yukon's only fly-in community. About 250 people on the bank of the Porcupine River, 120 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. This is the home of the Innu and Gwich'in First Nation, the people of the lakes, and one detail separates Old Crow from nearly every other place in this video. It isn't a town that lost its road, or one waiting for a road. Old Crow has never had one. Not a winter road, not an ice road, nothing. Everything and everyone has always arrived by river, by dog team, by snowmobile, or by air. Today, that means scheduled flights from Whitehorse and Inuvik, bringing the mail, the produce, the teachers, the hockey gear, and the prices you'd expect when every apple travels by air. The river brings fish. The land brings the rest, because Old Crow sits in the path of the porcupine caribou herd, well over 200,000 animals whose migration has fed the Gwich'in for millennia. That herd explains why Old Crow is famous far beyond its size. For decades, the Gwich'in have fought internationally to protect the herd's calving grounds in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska. Testifying in Washington, a village of 250 people taking on oil lobbies. They've also modernized on their own terms. In 2021, the community switched on a solar farm, sunlight replacing diesel that used to be flown in drum by drum. People in Old Crow will tell you the isolation is real, and so is the freedom. No road means no easy access for anyone, including the problems roads bring. The community weighed that trade a long time ago and keeps choosing the same way. Old Crow never had a link to lose. The next town on our list did, and in 2017, Canada found out what happens when it snaps. Number 2, Churchill, Manitoba. You know Churchill. It's the polar bear capital of the world, the town on Hudson Bay where bears outnumber people in the fall and tourists pay thousands to see them from tundra buggies. What most of those tourists don't realize is that no road connects Churchill to anywhere. There's no highway to the polar bear capital of Canada. There never has been. Since 1929, the town's entire land connection has been a single rail line running 1,000 kilometers north from the pass, through some of the softest, most waterlogged terrain a railway has ever been asked to cross. In late May 2017, spring flooding washed out that line in more than a dozen places. Then a natural disaster turned into a national embarrassment. The track's private American owner, Omnitracks, looked at the repair bill and refused to fix it. The federal government and the company pointed fingers at each other. Weeks became months. Months became a year. For roughly 18 months, a Canadian town of about 900 people was severed from the country's road and rail network entirely. Everything, including heating propane, came in by air or by sea. Grocery prices soared. Residents watched businesses wobble and neighbors move away, not because the land had failed them, but because a boardroom had. The story ends with the town winning. A partnership that included northern communities and First Nations, the Arctic Gateway Group, took over the railway, and in the fall of 2018, the repaired line reopened. When the first train rolled in, people came out to meet it like a returning ship. But Churchill learned in the hardest way what every town on this list already knows in its bones. Up north, connection is never a given, it's a thread. And threads get cut. Churchill fought its way back. Our number 1 never got that choice. It wasn't pushed to the edge of the map by geography, it was placed there. Number 1, Grise Fiord, Nunavut. Grise Fiord, pronounced Grise Fiord, sits on the southern coast of Ellesmere Island, over 1,100 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. Around 140 people live here, making it the northernmost civilian community in Canada. Its Inuktitut name is Tuktoyaktuk, the place that never thaws. The sun sets in late October and does not rise again for over 3 months. But here's what separates Grise Fiord from every other town on this list. People didn't drift here following fur prices or fish. In August 1953, the Canadian government relocated Inuit families from Inukjuak in northern Quebec, nearly 2,000 kilometers south of here, telling them they were going somewhere with better hunting. Families from Pond Inlet were brought as well. The government's own documents from the era show another motive. Ottawa wanted Canadian citizens living in the high Arctic to strengthen its sovereignty claims during the Cold War. The families arrived by ship to a place utterly unlike home. Different animals, different ice, months of total darkness they had never experienced. They had been told they could return in 2 years if they wished. That promise was not kept. They stayed and they survived because Inuit knowledge, adapted at enormous cost, made survival possible where planners in Ottawa had simply drawn a dot. It took until August 2010 for the Government of Canada to formally apologize for the high Arctic relocation. In Grise Fiord today stands a stone monument to the relocated families, carved by local artist Ludi Pijamini, a woman looking out over the frozen sea, and the community endures. Kids play hockey through the dark months. Hunters travel ice their parents were forced to learn and chose to master. The people of Tuktoyaktuk turned a Cold War decision into a living hometown at the top of the inhabited world. Every other town on this list gets cut off by winter. Grise Fiord was created by something colder and outlasted it. From space on a January night, almost every light in Canada huddles in one thin ribbon along the American border. And above that ribbon, scattered across 4,000 kilometers of dark, a handful of tiny sparks hold their ground. No roads reaching them, no headlights coming, just towns that spend half of every year holding on alone and choosing every single winter to stay. Subscribe, and we'll keep uncovering the country one hidden place at a time beneath the map.